my knees.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Look at all of her hair. Like, holy shit.
She's got more hair than me.
She's like a beautiful baby. Like, most babies are not.
Really cute.
Like, most babies are.
If I do say so myself.
She's a beautiful
She's
baby.
related to me, but she's really cute.
Says Rolla Girl. Hi, this is Megan.
And Sue in the restricted section.
And today we are going to be doing a March wrap-up because it's like March 29th right now. And we think we're pretty much done.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to finish another book this month.
I will probably finish the book I'm currently reading, but not another.
Yeah. So, and we're drinking this, I mean, technically we've had this on the channel before, but they do like a new release every year. So this is the 2018 MILF.
Oh.
By Mother's Brewing Company, which is a local brewery. And it is an Imperial Liquid Fantasy, it says.
Well.
It's like, is that like a wet dream?
Maybe.
Liquid Fantasy?
Liquid Fantasy. Wet dream. Oddly.
Speaking of wet dreams.
There's a part about wet dreams in this book that I'm going to talk about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
not really. It's kind of weird, but that's fine. You know, fuck it. Cheers. It's viscous.
Very strong.
Quite
it's like
strong.
barrel aged, by the way. So it's 11% alcohol by volume. Yeah, it's aged 11 months in bourbon, rye, brandy, and rum barrels.
Oh.
All
of them?
So, I think this is pretty good. I'm not like a super big fan of like barrel aged stuff.
Me neither, because like the whole reason, I mean the whole point of drinking beer for me is because I like the way the beer tastes, and I don't want to drink liquor, so I don't really want to drink beer that tastes like liquor.
But it does taste good.
This does taste good.
So, the first book we both read this month is Contact by Carl Sagan. And we buddy read this with Jessica and Christina from Game of Tones, and Richard from Richard Reads, and sort of Rebecca from Tea Hats.
Rebecca-ish from Tea Hats.
She chimed in there toward the end. This is a sci-fi novel about the first time we're contacted by aliens. And then what happens after that.
Right, and how that affects global politics and economics and what we do about it, basically.
And we haven't filmed it yet, but we're planning to do a full review of this, so we won't go into a lot of depth right now. But we both enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars.
I think that's what I gave it as well. Yeah, I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, there was definitely like some dry parts, so it could be a little bit tedious sometimes, but I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
And I loved that Carl Sagan was like all about the girl power.
He was all about the girl power. I was like, damn,
the
Carl
main
Sagan.
character is a female scientist.
The president
is a female.
There was another like really strong female, I think she was from India. Yep.
Yeah.
So she was pretty badass. I mean, there's a lot of like good female characters who didn't simply exist to further the plot of men. Right. So that was pretty awesome.
In fact, there were probably male characters that simply existed.
Yeah.
Because she was really the only like well-developed character. Yeah. I would say.
Yeah, the rest of them.
So the rest of the characters were kind of more just to further her story.
Yeah. And Carl Sagan was a progressive fella. Yeah.
I think he would be disappointed at where we are now.
I think he probably would.
And the next book that I finished was Wife of the Gods by Quay Corte. And this was a book that I read for the Read Harder Challenge of reading a mystery by a author of color or LGBTQ plus author, right? Yeah. And Quay Corte is a person of color, and he grew up in Ghana, Africa, which is where the book was set. And it was actually really good. I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did because I don't usually like mysteries very much. But it was really good. It did kind of have some of the like mystery cliches a little bit, but it was really interesting. I think what made it interesting was that it was set in Ghana and had a lot to do with the culture there. And so that made it a really interesting book. But the mystery was still pretty good too, I thought.
It sounds really cool. Yeah, I wouldn't mind to read that.
Yeah, I would recommend it. I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. The next book that I read was Long Black Veil by Jennifer Finney Boylan, and that was the book that I read for the same Read Harder challenge. And I actually really liked it too, and I normally don't like mystery either, but Jennifer Finney Boylan is a trans woman, and there were 2 trans characters in the book that featured. One of them was like a secondary character, but one of them featured very prominently in the story. But it was really good. The mystery was cool. It kind of took place back and forth between present day and like the 1980s, which was neat. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we both kind of lucked out because neither of us are usually big mystery fans, but we both got like pretty lucky with.
And we both ended up really liking.
That, and we both ended up really liking them.
But I think that you mentioned this when we did our live show, that like the fact that the culture featured so prominently in the story is what made it good.
Yeah.
So, because like trans culture was definitely in the trans experience and the trans, you know, I don't know how to say it without like demeaning it, but like being trans was featured like very prominently in the book. And you said Ghana culture.
Yeah,
Ghana
for sure. Ghana. Yeah.
See, I'm like a whole hot mess here with.
But yeah, I mean, it was actually like a big part of the mystery too, because witchcraft is like a part of the culture there. And so that was kind of hindering him in his investigation, because people were like, well, you know, she pissed off a witch and that's why she's dead.
Don't fuck with witches. Yeah.
And then the next book that I finished was an audiobook, and I listened to Uncommon Type by Tom Hanks, the actor. The actor extraordinaire. And I keep wanting to call the book Uncommon Objects, and I don't know why. I think that's a store. But it's Uncommon Type, and this is a collection of short stories, and unfortunately I was very disappointed. I thought that, he can construct a sentence. Like, his prose were nice.
Okay.
But the stories just seemed very pointless. And dull, and I was just like listening, waiting for something to happen on most of them, and I was like, nothing. It was just nothing. Like, there was one story that just like, the one that almost kind of pissed me off the most, because it was just so fucking boring, was like about a little kid who, his parents are divorced, and he lives with his dad, and then his mom comes to pick him up for the weekend. And he stays the weekend with his mom. And that's like it.
Cool story, bro.
And I mean, there was like a man who was clearly like his mom's new boyfriend and whatever. But I was just like,
who cares?
Who fucking cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think I gave it 2 stars, because it was just like, it kind of painful to get through, because it was just so boring. Yeah.
Ugh, it sounds rough.
So, but if he, you know, could like make a story that actually had some substance, I think it would be really good, because he could, like, his writing was good.
He has the skill.
Yeah.
He just didn't have the content.
Yeah, basically.
The next book that I read was Waiting by Ha Jin, and I read this for the challenge to read a book from a BRICS country, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So this is set in China. And this is a story of a man who is a military doctor, and he has a wife and a daughter back in like his village that he's from, but he lives in the city on base, and he has a mistress on base that he's had for like 18 years, and he keeps trying. Every summer he goes back to his village to try to divorce his wife so that he can marry his mistress, and every year his wife, they go in front of the judge to ask for the divorce, and his wife changes her mind. And so every year he's not able to get divorced. And so, whatever. I really did not like this, but I think that it had more to do with like, I'm sure a lot of the things I didn't like about it were cultural things, because this was set in like I think from like the 60s to the 80s was like the time frame. And from like what was described, a lot of it was cultural, like, yeah, it was just really, I'm trying to like quantify why I didn't like it, but it was kind of sexist, and like I really didn't like any of the characters, except for like this guy's poor wife, who he repeatedly described as like not attractive and very simple-minded, and he kept saying that like maybe if she had been more attractive he could have loved her, but whatever. And so then he's like has this mistress, and they have a relationship, but they don't ever have sex while they're like courting each other, but it's considered
like they're
an affair. But they're in love, and he just expects her to wait for him, and then it gets to the point where everyone is like treats her like his fiance and treats her like they're a couple, but they're not. So then it's hard for her to find someone else. But then he like tries to help her find someone else and like tries to set her up with his cousin. But yeah, awkward. So super awkward. And I marked a passage because there's a part that like I feel like sums up his attitudes towards women in this book. So it says, her words made him realize that his wife must have been lonely when he was away. He hadn't thought she had her own ideas and feelings. More worrisome, she never doubted that they would stay together for the rest of their lives. What a simple-hearted woman. This realization distressed him and foiled his first attempt at a divorce. But yeah, so yeah, I didn't much care for it. And like I said, I didn't really care for any of the characters. Like the mistress kind of starts out as likable, but then she gets really embittered by all those years of waiting with nothing happening. And like I feel like she didn't think she had any options but to wait any longer. But I was kind of like, move the fuck on, woman. Yeah. But I think like culturally she was kind of stuck. And she actually, something terrible happened to her. And it kind of tainted the way that other people looked at her, and so it made it harder for her to potentially find another mate. But yeah, so I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. I think the writing was fine. Like, there was nothing wrong with it technically. I just didn't like the characters. But
all right, anyway. So 2 bummers from us. The next book that I listened to on audiobook was I've Got This Round, More Tales of Debauchery by Mamrie Hart. And I fucking love Mamrie Hart. If you don't know who she is, she has a YouTube channel. She's a comedian, and YouTube personality, I would say. I think most of what she does tends to be on YouTube, from what I understand. She's made a couple movies too, but yeah, I just love her. I think she's fucking hilarious and just queen of puns. Just so awesome. Funny. And she has her like YouTube thing is You Deserve a Drink, where she makes cocktails or some sort of mixed drink for themed on something, but and then makes hilarious jokes throughout. But yeah, I just love her. We'll link her channel below if you haven't heard of her. Yeah, by chance. And these are just stories from her life. This is her second book. Her first book was called You Deserve a Drink. And it had stories more from like when she was younger in college. She's in her 30s now, and so these were more like recent stories of like in her 30s and maybe late 20s. So I feel like I related to this book more, just because it was closer to my, she's talking about stories from closer to my age. And I also think that it was better than the first one. I think her writing got better, and also like the first one I feel like she was too focused on trying to like turn each story into like a lesson to be learned. And this one I feel like she still kind of did that, but she was much better at it. Like it wasn't so obvious. It was like a more smooth transitions into like here's the lessons here's the lessons that can be learned from all my fuck-ups.
From all my fuckery. There you go.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed listening to it. I think she's really funny, and I just love her. I would love to like hang out with her and have a beer.
She sounds really cool.
I gave it 4 stars.
Nice. I would like to read that.
And she reads the audiobook herself, so that's also fun.
I think that's also like really cool, and the author reads it themselves. Okay, so that's all the books I completed, but I am currently reading Patient Zero by Jonathan Mayberry. And I would describe this as like action horror. Because it's a zombie novel, but it's talking about zombies as like biological warfare. So there are these terrorists who are attacking America by like sending over infected people who are infected with this zombie disease or whatever. And so there's this guy who gets put on this task force to like target these cells and take them down. So it's very much like a action, you know, horror, which I prefer just like kind of straight up horror.
Yeah.
But and there haven't been like a ton of zombies in this yet. But it's okay so far. It's a quick read. It's an easy read. It has a lot of those like action novel cliches, you know, like it's written, he speaks about himself in the first person. He's like Billy Badass and like is the best at fighting and the best at strategy. And he's on this like very no bullshit team who has like snipers and really badass dudes on it. So it's like very, you know, action cliche, and and that extends to like his views about women too. Like he goes to the beach in the beginning of the book. He's like at the beach to watch for women in bathing suits, and it's like that's kind of gross, but whatever. Creep ass. But yeah, so it's not bad. I mean, it has zombies in it, so like I like it, but it's a little more actiony than I typically would enjoy. So, you know.
Alright, so the last book that I finished was Future Home of the Living God by Louise Erdrich. And this is a dystopian novel where, for some reason, that's never explained.
Damn it.
Evolution starts going backwards. So babies are being born that are like throwbacks to, you know, ancestors of man, basically.
Neanderthals and
or like Australopithecus, like things like that. But and then the same thing is happening to animals as well, although that's like barely touched on. But there's like a fucking saber-toothed tiger in there at one point, and you're like, what the hell?
Okay.
So yeah, you'd think it'd be really cool and interesting.
Right.
However, this book was mostly pretty boring. It took me a really long time to read it, and it's not a long book because I couldn't bring myself to care very much. But it follows a woman named Cedar, and she has just like found out she's pregnant at the beginning. So that's a problem.
Right.
And it's written, I think part of it was that I just didn't really like the writing style, because it's written, she's writing it like a journal to her unborn child. And I don't know, something about that just didn't...
That's kind of strange.
Didn't appeal to me. And, I mean, I do think that parts of it were really interesting because, it really, like, what happens to women in this world where they're like, we have to, like, because there's still some women who are having, like, normal babies.
Okay.
And so they're trying to figure out what's going on and, like, why some women, you know, they want normal babies.
Right.
And, so basically it ends up, well, I guess I don't really want to, like, say what happens, but it's really interesting, I think, what happens, what the government does in this situation, I will say. And so that really was kind of something I hadn't read before in a dystopian, because I read like a short story before where, like, reproduction has stopped completely, and it didn't go in this direction, and I feel like maybe this direction is perhaps more realistic and also more terrifying. But yeah, I will say, like, my sister read this, and she recently had a baby, and she loved, like, well, she said she read it really quickly. I'm not sure what her, like, overall feelings on it were, but she was, like, super into it and, like, stayed up late reading it. I did not have that experience. I had to, like, force myself to pick this up and read it a lot of the time. But I was trying to finish it because I'm reading it for my book club, so I was like, I guess I'll finish it. But, yeah, so I'm wondering if, like, if I had had children, like if I had had the experience of having a child, if maybe I would have liked it more.
That makes sense.
Because a lot of it is like her being pregnant, not knowing whether she's going to have like
a normal baby or not.
Or if she's going to give birth to like, because like these babies that are being born are like much larger than humans are now, and you know, they don't have the same cognitive abilities and stuff like that. Right. So it's like a lot of the women are dying when they're giving birth because the babies are too big, and it's like, yeah, so it's like the unknown of like what's my baby gonna be like when they're born, and also trying to like keep herself and her baby safe. And so
and I wonder how much of that is like a universal mother thing, you know, because when you're pregnant, you don't know, like things can go wrong, and so I wonder how much of that is like universally relatable to women who do have
and that's what I was thinking, because I'm like, I didn't relate to that at all because I've never been pregnant and I've never given birth. So I feel like maybe if I had, I would have been way more into it, because it's definitely more focused on like her and her story than on the overall. And it did, like I said, it did kind of bother me that like, it seemed like an unrealistic premise. Like, why the fuck is evolution
going backwards?
Doesn't make sense.
Right, it doesn't.
And
make
they
sense.
never offer like a valid, you know, explanation for it.
Because like, if evolution happens to like help species continue to exist, like
I think maybe like one theory that was thrown out there was like maybe this was like the Earth protecting itself because we were destroying it, so it was like, but that doesn't really make sense to me. Unless, I don't know, if you've read it and maybe I missed something, let me know. But I think that like the response that the government had to this was maybe realistic, but that the premise itself was not believable, and there was parts in it that were just like, I mean, I love dystopian, and like, of course, it's not real, you know, like no dystopian is, but I feel like it should be feasible, and because I feel like this wasn't that feasible.
Because like part of the fun of reading a dystopian novel is because it freaks you out, because some of them you can see how we could get there.
But this one I was like, scientifically, I don't feel like that's possible. No. But like I said, like what happens afterwards, I think, is realistic and is like pretty terrifying as a, you know, especially as a woman, terrifying. But overall, I thought it was okay. I did enjoy the ending. I thought it got pretty good there at the end, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. But if the ending hadn't been so good, I probably would have only given it 2.
Ooh. I don't think either of us have read a 1-star book yet this year, though.
No, I don't think so.
So,
haven't read anything terrible. Awesome.
Looking on, you know, optimistic Megan. That's one of the traits I'm known for.
I also haven't read many 5-star books, though. Have I read any 5-star books?
I have not read any 5-star books.
I don't think I have either.
So it hasn't been like a extreme reading year either way, one way or the other.
No.
So those are the books we've read in March. I'm hoping to finish Patient Zero this month. I'm sure I will. It's a fast read, so I'm off work tomorrow, so I can just sit and read, and I'm sure I'll finish it. So
I just started reading White Trash, the 40-year untold history of class in America, I think is the subtitle.
It sounds interesting.
And I like just started it, so I know I won't finish it this month.
It sounds cool though. You have to let me know how it is. Maybe I'll grab it from the library. From the libs.
You can borrow it from me.
I feel like I have plenty of your books right now.
Doesn't matter. Once I read it, I don't care anymore. You can keep it forever if you want.
But yeah, so this beer is pretty decent. It's strong.
Very strong.
So it
does taste good, but it definitely, you know, has that liquor taste to it.
It does. I mean, about half of a bottle. We split this bottle in half, and that's about what I would want to drink.
Yeah.
It's about half of a bottle.
Yeah.
So that's a good amount of this beer to drink.
I have 3 more in my fridge I'll probably just give to Jeremiah. Yeah, let us know what you guys read this month, and if you've read any of the books we read, let us know your thoughts.
Yes. And there will be some links down below where you can find us elsewhere on the internet.
And if you have not subscribed yet,
do it.
Do it.
Do it.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.